Welcome to another edition of the ROTL UK podcast, episode 390, FTB. My name's Matthew Turner, alongside Anthony Fitzpatrick. How you doing, man?
I'm not doing too bad. It's just it seems crazy that the season's already over. So, it's these things come and go. You get hyped up for 8 months and then it arrives, and then before you know it, bang, gone, and you've got to wait another 8 months for it to go again. But yeah, it's obviously not the season we wanted, but at least we went out on a little bit of a high.
It does feel ever so fleeting. I mean, when I say to myself, our next competitive game is in 8 months' time, that's insane. And even if you make the Super Bowl, it's 7 months. It's a long off-season, but we are here for the last time this season on our review show, looking back at the win and the sweep of the NFC North winning a number 2 seed in the conference, Chicago Bears, which is a sentence I didn't think I would be saying at the start of the season. I did not think I'd be saying for a long time, to be frank. So, through gritted teeth, congratulations to the Bears, who went backwards into the 2 seed after the bloody Eagles couldn't even do one over the Washington Commanders, who suffered Josh Johnson scoring a rushing touchdown to win the game. Come on, guys. We left the bloody door open for you. You just had to walk through it. Not even the chosen one, Tanner McKee, could get it done. But anyway, we'll get into the rest of the weekend's games after we're done talking about this game. We will do a little bit of news. There's been a little bit coming out now very recently about re-signings and futures contracts and other bits of injury news. So we're going to get into news. We're going to get into the Bears review. And then I don't think I've actually talked with Ant since we were eliminated about what this means in this off-season and all that sort of stuff, which in some ways is well documented by you being on Twitter as much as you are, but some people listening to this may not go on Twitter particularly because of it being the Muskverse, and if you do that, I don't blame you. So we'll have a little bit of a chat about implications and thoughts for the off-season and that sort of thing, but it's a long off-season. We can talk about that on several podcasts, to be honest. Anyway, I am waffling, so let's get on with this. Please do join our Discord channel. We are the best in class when it comes to off-season content. So, enter our Discord, find a wonderful community to talk with, and you'll see all of our content going through there too. Link is in the live chat right now. College Football Podcast is going to be back at some point this week, and college football quarterfinals have already happened. The semi-finals are on Thursday and Friday, respectively. It seems like that season's coming to an end very quickly as well. And some of the games are a disappointment. One in particular was an absolute barnstormer.
Yeah, there's been a lot of shock results in the playoffs. Not going how a lot of people thought they were going to, myself included. So it's going to be interesting. There's going to be a winner who hasn't won it in
ever. None of them have won it.
I don't think any of them. No, we're gonna get a new one. Certainly in the modern CFP era, you would have to go back a very long time.
So I was reading up about this.
Old Miss have some weird things from back in the day.
That's what I was going to say. They are claiming national titles, but it wasn't an associated
that was back in the day. You
one.
could claim them. Yeah, it's the back in the day when you could claim and stuff like that. But anywho, there's going to be a new birdie at the top of the pile after this year, and not names we thought were going to be up there. So it's intriguing, and obviously the portal's just gone mental. With it only been a 2-week window now, that's gone crazy. But yeah, it's shaping up to be a barnstorming set of semis, so that's going to be good.
So that show later on this week. Please do like this episode, sub to the podcast, so you guys know how much that means to us. All right, transactions. This has only come out in the last half an hour. We're at the, early evening, your time over there in the States of Monday, and we have re-signed the offensive lineman Michael Neese, running back Jacob Sailors, and cornerback Nick Whiteside. We've also signed to reserve futures contracts running back Jabari Small, wide receivers Malik Cunningham and Jackson Meeks, tight end Zach Corton, offensive lineman Devin Cochran and Mason Miller, and then defensive tackle Chris Smith, edge player and former draft pick Ahmed Hassanin, and safety Lauren Strickland. In terms of injuries and potential retirements, Taylor Decker was asked just after the game finished about his prospects for retirement or playing next season. He said he would go away and consider his options. He's spoken to the press about the levels of pain and pain management he's gone through just to play this season, Dan has said that he is due to speak with the team, Dan and Brad, today or tomorrow, so his future may become more clear imminently. Dan, in his press conference today even, sorry, did say that regardless of whether he comes back or not, he's going to need some time to rest and recover. So I don't think you'll be seeing him in April hit the facility, if I'm frank, one way or the other. And then otherwise, Brad Holmes is scheduled to talk with the media on Thursday, as is traditional after the season comes to a close. And in terms of draft, the Lions are now locked into picking 17th overall in the first round after their win. And the Baltimore loss, if Baltimore had won, the Lions would have picked 16th. So you can blame Tyler Loop for that one position. But otherwise, if the Lions had lost this game, they would have been picking 13th. So it has cost us 4 positions in the draft overall, which I think 13th to 17th, you're maybe talking about a 4th round pick in terms of value of what we've given up with that win. Is that a lot or not? You decide. I'm not sure. Anyway, and quite a lot going on. I'm not sure any of it's of a huge amount of consequence. Just get your thoughts overall on things maybe and leave it quite open. I would say we've gone back and forth on Taylor Decker's entire career on this show, it sounds like. It feels like. We started the show in 2020, and I think at that time we were talking about the merits of Decker being resigned to his first major contract after his rookie deal and whether that was worth it or not. We butted heads a lot, and he justified that deal quite emphatically. He's a career Lion right now, and I think, given the contract he's on, he will end up being one way or the other. I think he deserves to be honoured, but whether he should come back is in question medically, but also his play this season has been of the average left tackle, but it's been a step down from where he's been in recent years.
Yeah, it's tough to see the play because you don't. This is the part you don't see. You see them train, you see them get ready, you see them play. You don't see the day-to-day life of them and what they go through and all the little things they have to go through to get ready for this. And when you hear him speak in such vivid detail, this is just to get him to a base level of fitness. This is not for him to be at 100% or playing the best football he's ever played in his life. This is just for him to play a base level of comfortability, and he's having to have shots, steroids, physio. He's having to miss practices, and he's having to endure huge amounts of pain. Dude can't even lift his shoulder above, at some point because it's so bad, and you're like, that's very difficult. And as you say, there's no coincidence that the play has tailored off a bit this year. It does not help that left guard position has been here, there, and everywhere. There's been multiple different guys playing there, which doesn't give him this. It's not like he's had Tate Ratledge playing next to him like Panay Sewell has. He's had to deal with a whole host of guys moving in, out, rookies, practice squad guys off the street. It's just not been the easiest for him. But when it comes to the situation with the Lions, it's unfortunately now we're going into year 6 of this build, and we've got to start getting brutal with the way we go about things here. If he's not fit and healthy, if he's having to struggle this much to be able to get to where he is, because don't forget he had surgery last year. The surgery did nothing. It's not like this is just a surgery away from everything being hunky dory and he'll be back to normal again. It's been tried. They can do it again, maybe, whatever it does for him, but it's obviously not going to fix this issue. And you can't carry guys, especially when they're earning as much money as he is and what he's worth against the cap to us. We have to take that into consideration for this team as well. He is a career Lion. He will go in the pride of the Lions. He will get all those deserved accomplishments with us, but if the pain is that bad and the situation is that bad, you have to be prepared for the inevitable that's coming. Even if it's not this year, you figure it's probably going to be next at the last. So you've got to start making extensive plans now to replace him, regardless of whether he comes back or not. And this year, the Lions' lack of depth on the offensive line has been exposed. we've bleated on about it for years. They've not invested enough in the future. They've just ridden the present and they've broken the present, and now they're not ready for the future. And as Dan said, they've got to learn lessons from the Ragnar retirement. We've been screaming for years for them to get a centre in and develop them for when Frank's time is nigh, and we didn't, and we've suffered this year. Got to do the same with Taylor Decker. We've got to have someone there and ready to go, and it's not going to be Giovanni Manu. You've got to go again at that position. So yeah, it's heartbreaking to hear for him. He's had a good career. He's had a great career. He's played many years here, but you figure that it just sounds like the gig's up with him now. And obviously, going into a year where we're going to need to win playoff games next year if we still want to keep this project alive, replacing your left tackle is not an ideal situation because you're either going to go and spend a lot of money in free agency, or you've got to spend a high draft pick and hope that your rookie hits right off the bat, which is more often than not a rarity unless you're picking in the top five. So, which we are not.
Hmm.
So yeah, it's going to be a shame with them, but the team have to get brutal now. You know, the same with Nelson, the same with Glasgow. There's no room for sentiment here. Yes, they've been on the team for years, and yes, they've
Nelson?
had their good parts. Nelson, fucking Skipper,
Glasgow? Oh, Skipper.
Well, Skip and his back and Glasgow. They both say, you know, there's no room for sentiment here right now. It's like, okay, guys, if you're done, you're done. See you bye. We've got to move on to the next part of this now because we can't afford to carry on this stagnation with the team that we have. So it's sad, but it's part of the process, and we have bigger things that we need to move on to.
Big Aries says, can't play catch with kids. I think he's going to retire. Well deserved. I do think that what happened with Ragnar is interesting, and I do wonder, because you don't see it as often as you would think, if Decker decided to take a year off. I don't mean like decisively retire, but he seems like the sort of guy who could do with keeping his body in football shape, but not playing football for a year and see how he feels. Like, Ragnar should have taken the full year and then see how he feels. If he felt like he was potentially wanted to come back, but the injuries are taking their toll because it's every day, every year for a decade, that's insane. And I don't really want to carry people, but if Decker took a, let's call it a mini retirement, in the words of Gary Neville, if you know, you know, and then see how he feels. And if he wants to stay in retirement because it's right for him, then fine. If he wanted to come back, to re-sign him to a paltry deal because he wants a ring as depth, I think is the best case scenario here, because you can carry him as depth, but you can't carry him on his current contract as a starter, and that's the really, really key thing here. If he does retire, then the Lions are going to get back almost $12 million in cap space, which is no small thing for this team. We are going to have, after we restructure Jared Goff, and there'll be a whole show on free agency and restructures and whatever coming, so we'll get into that. But Jared Goff restructure is coming, because you can't pay him $70 million on the cap. We're going to have potentially the highest cap space in the division by some margin, especially with the rollover we've got from this year. So cash is not going to be at a premium, but it will be in subsequent years. And so the saving can come now and looking to invest in positions that, really, really make a difference. So all the money counts. It's all about output per dollar. And right now, Decker might be best served just kind of taking some time. I just want to get to the super chat that we had before it expires. Many thanks to Megan Aussie, 12 Gal Kroger, our friend from the Seattle Seahawks fan base. She says, hey gents, happy new year to you all. How about them Seahawks, number 1 seed, playoff run, beat the Rams and Niners. Gotta love being at 12. Megan, many congratulations to you guys. I think what you've done is absolutely fantastic. I'm sure there are fans of Michigan who are absolutely loved what you guys have done with your head coach. Good luck to you guys in the playoffs. I don't really have any rooting interest there. Maybe slightly Carolina, just because they're probably the team that, especially you out, but we've all kind of rooted for as an underdog. But apart from them, the Seahawks fully deserve what they've done defensively. And the game yesterday, the Seahawks were incredible.
Right, yours truly picked and win to the NFC West, so there we go. Thank you for that, Seahawks. You might just have crowned my victory in the Roar of the Lions UK preseason predictions. But yeah, you knew it was there. The pieces were there. The talent was there, and that's a dog eat dog division. That is, apart from the Cardinals, it's like ours. 3 very good teams, very competitive, and iron sharpens iron, and it seems to have done well for them. They've kind of just gone under the radar for a bit. Everyone associates them with being the Pete Carroll team, the Russ Wilson team. That was the team. They in a new era now. They're gone and they've sort of gone about their business in a calm, quiet, collected manner, and now they're ready to strike. So good for them, and hopefully they do better than we did as the number one seed last year. Don't do what we did. That's not very wise.
Anything else about any of the news that I discussed that's of interest to you about the re-signings or where we're picking and the value that we've lost with the win or anything like that?
With the re-signings, no. With due respect to all those guys, teams going for the Super Bowl probably are not going to find much value off their futures reserves lists and shouldn't be looking to find much value off them either. These guys are there for a reason. You want to go to the practice squad, fine, but I don't think we're going to see much from any of them, and I wouldn't want to see much of any of them next year, with all due respect. In terms of the draft picks, screw the draft picks and where you're at. Like, some people wanting to lose to the Bears just so we pick at 13 and 17. Who cares? What is the difference between 13 and 17? There really isn't one in terms of who you draft and what you get. We are a smart drafting organization. We can draft smart 13, we can draft smart 17, and you can bet your bottom dollar there's going to be a lot of teams in front of us who don't draft smart. So I don't get it. I really don't. Winning football games is what matters, and beating the Bears is what matters, and winning these big games is what matters for your culture. It always matters. Um, so yeah, there's just no difference, and I really, really, really do not care about it. Like, if you want to move up a bit, you can move up a bit. If you want to move back, you can move back. It's exactly the same thing, pretty much. So, bleh, don't really care about that. I don't think there's much else really to say there.
All right, let us move on then into talking about this game in particular. Um, sorry, I'm just replying to Dan Pask. He said, sounds like Fraser is above Coyote in the depth order with Yodi being a healthy scratch. I don't know that Yodi was a healthy scratch. He was questionable coming into the game. It might have been that they were just conservative with him, given that he was carrying an injury. He might have been fit to play if we needed him to. I don't know, but I do think that Fraser is ahead of him. I think you're right. Anyway, let us talk about the game. Now, I've not made any particular notes because it's a meaningless game and who gives a fuck. But the Lions ran out 19-16 victors. They were 13-0 up at half time. Jared Goff with an efficient performance, 27 of 42, 331, a touchdown and a pick. Rushing the ball, 27 for 122, including 19 for 80 for Gibbs and 8 for 42 for David Montgomery. So that's above 4 yards a carry. Feels like the first time in a long time that we've achieved that feat. Receiving the ball, Amon-Ra St. Brown was absolutely magnificent. 11 of 15 for 139. Jameson Williams was 6 of 8 for 74. Khalif 3 of 3 for 52. Jameer 3 of 5 for 33 and a touchdown. Taslar with the first catch of the game, 1 of 1 for 18. For Chicago, Caleb Williams had a torrid first half. 20 of 33 for 212, 2 touchdowns and a pick. Rushing the ball, they were terrible. Swift, 10 for 40. Monongai, 6 for 14. Luther Burden, 1 for 10 in an 18 for 65 overall performance. And then receiving-wise, Colton Loveland was totally unplayable. 10 of 13 for 91 on a touchdown. Jade Walker had a terrible drop, but he did get a touchdown. 2 of 3 for 36 and a touchdown. Not a lot else there, but I mean, they had like 30 passing yards in the first half. So when I said they had a torrid time, they really, really did. Williams did have a fumble, which he got back on. On defense, Jack Campbell led the team with 11 tackles. We had a sack by Hutch and two other TFLs by Malcolm Rodriguez and Tyreek Williams. For Chicago, they were led by Tremaine Edmonds, Jaquan Brisket, Kevin Byard with tackles with 8 apiece. They had 3 sacks, 1 by Billings, 1 by Dexter, and 1 shared by Sweat and Jarrett. And then they had 1 other TFL by Dominique Robinson. In terms of interceptions, we had 1 by Maddox. Theirs was by Kevin Byard. Jake Bates did miss a field goal, but otherwise went 4 of 5 and then 1 of 1 on extra points. It was one of those games, they really came back into it. It was it 16-0? Well, I've lost my train of thought here with what the score was. It was 16-0 at the end of the third quarter. They scored 2 touchdowns and 2 two-point conversions, but it wasn't enough, as they went 3 and out in their final possession, and we went 6 plays for 39 yards and the game-winning field goal. Shame that Baltimore couldn't do the same for us. And it really was a tale of two halves. You know, in that fourth quarter, they really came alive and had a 7-play, 65-yard touchdown drive and a 12-play, 88-yard touchdown drive, whereas before, their longest drives were fairly significant, but we actually managed to get the stop. First drive was an 8-play, 30-yard drive. There, they had a turnover on downs, a 9-play, 39-yard drive. They had an interception on a 7-play, 32-yard drive. So it's not like we were forcing these 3 and outs, but at some point they just seemed to stall out, and the Lions played a huge amount of zone coverage. It's really, really notable that we've done that because, of course, of the high amount of zone that we've played. And I think, for me, this is a pointer towards the future. We have always seen our identity as being a man coverage unit. And there's a few things there. You know, if you can play man, it really does help in some ways because you are sticking to people. But in zone coverage, you generally get more interceptions. That's one of the reasons why Aaron Glenn's teams never really seem to get interceptions. And hell, the Jets are now the first team in NFL history to not get an interception in a season. Is that right? No, they didn't get an interception this year, that's for damn sure. But I do think that this idea of having an identity, I think the identity, generally speaking, needs to be that we are flexible as a team to the situation. And transitioning into so much zone coverage really gave huge problems to Caleb Williams, especially in the first half.
Yeah, the defense was very good for all the tap it's taken over recent weeks. You know, they came out with a game plan and they were ready to execute. We seem to play the Bears pretty well. That's 7 of 8 wins against them now. So we know them how they know us. But I thought they played very well. More negative plays in the backfield, kind of kept their running game in check a little bit. And as you can say, in coverage for the first 3 quarters, anyhow, when they weren't on tight ends, they were pretty good. They kept their main receivers locked down, you know, were able to get off the field when they needed to, didn't let them convert too many third downs. You know, it was good. You know, the execution going after the quarterback does still leave a lot to be desired. There were a lot of missed tackles in the backfield where we could have got more impact plays, and that's been a problem for us for a long time. But I thought overall they were very good. The defense were, like you say, you lock a team out for 3 quarters, you're doing pretty well. And this is the best team that have been on a run in recent weeks. They were showing you Caleb's stats and that, you know, he's doesn't throw interceptions, keeps the ball very well. They're scoring good points. The run game's getting on top, and we didn't allow them to do that, which was really good. It was just a case that our offense couldn't really complement them, and therein lies the problem we've seen this year. Consistency. We've just had a real big problem playing consistent football between good offense and good defense. It's usually only one that's working well at any given time, and that's why we're not in the playoffs this year. And for as many stops as the defense did make, and you know, the one thing the offense did do, it took up time. I think what his first 3 drives took up forever and a day, which helped, but the inconsistency it's played with, the red zone aspect of it, they're useless when they get to the red zone. It was just, it was so infuriating. Overall, even though we won, I came out of this game more frustrated with them than when I went into it because of how they played, because it's a microcosm of their season and the problems they've had, which have kept us getting into the playoffs, and the win still felt bittersweet towards the end, but the defense, as I say, it showed good signs, good improvements. Some of the young guys stepped up, played well, gave themselves an opportunity here next year potentially. Yeah, it was a good job for all of them in the first half.
And then in the third quarter, we won it 3-0. You know, it seemed like we were going to end up walking this game. You know, the Bears went 3 and out, and then they threw an interception, which frankly was a really, really good play by Avonte Maddox, throwing a corner route to DJ Moore, who looked like he had a step. Avonte, with his back turned, kind of knew exactly where the play was going to go, snagged it in the air. I thought he was going to run it out for a second, and I thought he was going to get tackled at the 1, but fortunately not. And And, after that and then scoring a field goal to end that third quarter, it felt like, even though it's a two-score game at 16-0, you think, well, they're probably unlikely to get two scores, two-point conversions, but it's exactly what happened. And I was looking at the snap count at half-time with Ash when we were doing the live play-by-play, and Amik had played, I think it was like 5 snaps in the first half, but he ended up playing 33 snaps in the game, which means he took 28 in the second half, and we were, somewhat dominant on defense in the first half. And then that fourth quarter, we really struggled to do anything. I don't know. It didn't feel like we sat off particularly, but we kind of transitioned into a bit more nickel and a bit less base, which had actually quite worked for us. And Caleb started picking that apart. Loveland came alive, and once it got to 16-all, I have to admit, and I thought we were done for. And I thought, this was us resigning ourselves to things. I mean, the trick play which Monty was trying to run with the throw to Goff, it felt like we had decided to have some fun with it and unload the bag of tricks we'd been trying to prepare for the playoffs, because fuck knows we can't carry it over to next year. But in the end, we almost threw it away.
Play calling was horrendous. I don't know what went through their mind in the fourth quarter as to what they were doing, but they played like they wanted to lose the game. And momentum's a real thing in football. You let the Bears eventually get a touchdown. Just the amount of time, I know the zone worked better, but then Colston Loveland was free every time the ball was thrown at him. And I get there's no Anzalone and Branch in there, who are our two biggest weapons against tight ends, but at the same point, if these guys are burning you, you've got to find them some help. Rodrigo has not played any football this year, barely. He's coming back off an ACL tear. They've been playing him 3 or 4 snaps a game. Then suddenly they thrust him into this big role, covering all these massive arse tight ends. They're giving him no help whatsoever. And it was a clear weakness, and they did nothing to adapt to it whatsoever. And then just in typical form from us, we give them the touchdown drive, then we just go out there and I think nearly 3 and out it and just give it straight back to them, and the momentum's against you, and then you just let them get on top of you, and all your hard work, you just, leave for nothing. Bears did get lucky. I know there was a fumble recovery in there somewhere, which we probably should have had. But yeah, it just all kind of went crazy, and then they get level. You start putting together a good drive again, and then you throw one of the worst interceptions you've ever seen in your life, and you're throwing into triple coverage when you've got a guy clear who's going to get 15, 20 yards. It's really silly, and all the momentum's against you. Thankfully, you're able to make a stop at the end and just get that one you need, but this was a microcosm of our season. We have not been the dominant team we were last year. We have not put away bad teams. We've not put away situations that we would have in the case. 3/4 of this game, we were on top, and we let them hang with us and nearly lost it because, again, we gave them the opportunity to. They started finding weaknesses in us. We didn't adjust to it, and eventually we're lucky to scrape a win to end the year and win with a winning record. But yeah, that's what this game was. It was a microcosm of this season. They can't play consistent football. They can't put bad teams away. They make so many basic mistakes when it comes into the red zone, and ultimately, not good enough. Helps in this one where the Bears probably don't really care because they're second or third seed either way, but. Yeah, it was just a really frustrating end to what had been a good performance, and it just, yeah.
I disagree with the Bears not caring, because the difference between the second and the third seed, the second seed, you're at home to the Packers in an obviously advantageous situation. Third seed, you're at home to the third best team in the West, but that's a bloody good team, and it would end up being the Rams, and I don't want to face the Rams. That's many people's pick to win the whole bloody thing. The difference between the Rams and the Packers is huge. The Bears right now should be favoured to win a playoff game for the first time in forever. If I'm the Bears, I want to win this game something rotten to lock us into the 2 seed. By losing this game, they gave the Eagles the chance to nick an easier road to the playoffs. And you know what? If you're the 2 seed and the 1 seed loses in the divisional round, you're at home field the whole way through. I think this game genuinely meant something to the Bears. And, it clearly did, because they put in their starters the whole bloody game and they looked fucking terrible. This would worry me if I was a Chicago fan, because, you're facing a Lions side which has shown no ability to stay consistent. And through the first three quarters, although the Lions couldn't finish off their drives, this is the best we've looked between 20s since like week 5. Like, we couldn't finish. But we also really struggled to move the ball and relied on explosive plays all the way through the season. This game, we didn't have to rely on explosive plays, and it felt refreshing to just know that we could get 4.5 yards a carry. Well, that hasn't been Monty's been at 2 yards a click for some time. Gibbs has been at 2.5 yards or 1.5 yards a click for some time. This game, while frustrating we couldn't finish things off, gave me a renewed set of confidence that we hadn't actually lost who we were, because this season had me worrying that we completely fucked it. And this game made me think, I know the Bears are banged up on the defensive line, and our resident Bears fan Bailey said this could be the case of the movable object against the resistible force, but at least we showed some signs of life.
We did, and these NFC North games matter regardless. And you want to end on a high, you want to end on a win. Again, you want to beat Ben, because if the Bears go and one and out in the playoffs now, you can kind of say to them, "Well, look, you're kind of fraudulent." And I do hope they go one and out. It does matter. Wins always matter. You've always got to, because if you lose again to end the year, you end with a losing record. Psychologically, it could have a big impact on the team. You're trying to put your message across that your method works, and you're moving so far backwards, you kind of lose your validity with it. So, it always matters, and that's why the win matters, and screw the draft position. Because again, it doesn't really matter. I'm looking back through drafts and of previous first rounds in years, and the players that go at 13 and the players that go at 17, I'm going to tell you now, there's no difference. There's no difference at all. Depends what you want, but you're not missing out on some blue chip, all grown talent just because you moved a few places in the teens. You're really not. But again, back to the point, it was good to see them end the season this way, but the sad thing is that's this season. It doesn't matter how you finish this season, it matters how you start next. And we're going to have massive changes on our trenches next year. If Glasgow and Decker do retire, you're going to have 2 new starters on this line next year. Potentially 3 in there if you want another guard instead of instead of Mahogany, or Frazier doesn't work out. Who knows what's going to be the situation there? You're going to probably have another running back in there as well, because I don't know if Monty's going to come back next year and accept his reduced role on this team. Obviously, it's just you never start how you finish from a year before. So while it was good they showed it in this, it's just a case of, like Jojo said, it's too little, too late. And
The great
what could have
philosopher.
been exactly Jojo Siwa, but it is. It did just feel like it was like, where was this against that bitch ass Vikings team and the
Pittsburgh.
Steelers,
Yeah.
and where was this then?
Yeah.
It's
In some
again
ways, it's
when
infuriating that we showed it because we could have shown it earlier.
yeah, and this is going to funnel back into the impossible point that I keep making, that when they're asked to act like winners, they're struggling to act like winners. And when their backs are against the wall or it means nothing, suddenly they're learning how to play football again and they can do it right again. And that's the annoying thing about this. They did put together a very good performance, but when it mattered, they didn't, which is the worry going into next year. And again, you are going to see significant change to this team this year, whether we like it or not. You could end up with as many as 7 or 8 new starters next year. That's a lot of turnover for a team. So maybe even more than that potentially. So it's a nice little feather to end the end of the season, and obviously another winning season. We've established that Dan Campbell's floor as a coach is what Jim Caldwell's ceiling was as a coach. That's not a bad ceiling. That's not a bad floor to have, that you can still have a winning season when, by all accounts, you've just had a miserable year and it's a down year. You're still in a pretty damn good position going forward. But obviously you've got a lot of moves to make this year. This is a massive off season now. It's the biggest they've ever had, and you know, this will set the tone for their entire reign and their reign going forward as to whether they can get back again, because you can't go back a 3rd year in a row, otherwise your culture dies. So they got a lot of tough decisions to make going forward.
Yeah, I think where the coaches are at right now, you are in the position where I think you are 12 months away from being on a hot seat. Right
Yeah,
now,
yeah,
Campbell has no worries, and where they're positioned and how they've drafted and where the floor is for this team, there really should be no concerns. But if you have another season of missing the playoffs, being in a very similar position, say, to where we are now, they will enter the 2027 season saying, if you do it again, you'll be in the Jim Caldwell position of, well, this isn't good enough anymore, and maybe it's time to cut bait. So I think we're 2 years away from it being done and 1 year away from having a discussion about what do we do from here.
yeah. Because this is now your biggest indicator that you've got to adapt your program. Up until now, the way you've done it's been fine. And, maybe some could say they could be a little bit more aggressive at the deadline, etc. But the slow build has worked so far. You're entering year six this year, and you are going to be 3 years removed from a playoff win. That's just not acceptable. You've had 5 years, and you've got 1 year with playoff wins in it. Again, not acceptable. And you now have a big target next year and you're going backwards. You go from NFC Championship game to bounced in the wild card to not making it at all. And you've now put pressure on yourself because the slow build rhetoric isn't going to work no more. People are saying this year, oh, we'll get loads of draft picks, we'll draft all these new trench guys, and we'll be fine in the long run. But you can't afford a long run when you're into year six of your tenure. I'm not going to sit here and be told that next year is a punt because I've got to wait for all these trench players to bed in and then maybe in year two. Because in year two, it's going to be the same as well. There are always going to be problems in the NFL. And you are never going to follow a perfect pattern of what you want. Think this time
Well,
last year, we didn't know last year that in 12 months' time, Kirby Joseph might have a degenerative knee injury. The Taylor Decker might be on the verge of retiring. That DJ Reader didn't work out. All these problems, and then the problems we have now that we think we can fix. We think, oh, we've fixed 7 of 8 problems this year. We got one problem to fix next year. No, when you get to next year, you're going to have another 8 problems, and you cannot keep making excuses as for
yeah.
why you can't get the deal done.
Let's just
So
highlight this by saying this. I said missing the playoffs this coming year and next year and go into the season hot seat. If you miss the playoff again, we're starting over. At that point, Amon-Ra St. Brown is going to be entering his age 29 season. He's our best player, I think. I don't think that's controversial. Maybe Gibbs has a shout with him, although if Gibbs could start falling forward, that would be great. But, at some point, your problems that you have to face every year, you then have to face problems you don't want to happen, which is that your best players get old. And then you have to replace those. And you know what? I do not relish having to replace Taylor Decker, as we've been talking about. Like, getting your left tackle right for Goff is going to be big compared to other quarterbacks because of his lack of mobility, because sometimes he struggles to feel pressure from his blind side. If we get that wrong, that is going to massively hamper what we can do long term. So these questions are going to come every year. Players you don't expect to leave us are going to leave. We're going to have trades away and we're going to have to replace those guys. It's going to get rough.
yeah, and obviously this timeline falls into, it falls in step with your quarterback. In 2 years, you're going to be in the last year of your contract deal, and that is probably going to be it for Jared as his time as starter here. And then you're going to have to restart from the quarterback position again. And, it's just, that's not going to be an ideal position to be in. So, like you say, you have a 2 year window now. I mean, if in this 2 years you can get to NFC Championship games and you can be competitive and you can be on the doorstep of a Super Bowl, you'll get longer than that. And I think we'd accept that, getting in the right direction. But you've now accentuated the situation. You've got to make gains quickly, and that is at odds with the ethos that they have run on this team so far. You're at the first real pressure point now for are you going to start moving money forward to use now, or are you going to try and ride these contracts out and, work with less? But then you're making your chances of success in the short term very difficult indeed with all the holes you have next year. you have got to show some form of aggression in sorting it this year. We can't just go through the bargain bin again and,
The thing is, if we do
bargain
start
bin hunt.
mortgaging the future, when the time comes to pay the mortgage off, and we have no team because we've had to sell our assets to pay what we have taken, the fans will, the sensible fans, will be realistic about the fact that a reset is coming and that a down year will happen. And you know what? Somewhat embrace the fact that we might go, you know what? We are openly tanking for the number 1 overall pick in that year while we clear the debts. It's something that, if you go down that road, you embrace. And I wouldn't hate it.
No.
Okay, we now limit how long this build can be, but looking at the Eagles, that can be 7 or 8 years before that bill comes due. For the Saints, they made it last longer than that, and it made it worse for themselves. But you can make that happen, as long as you are heads up with when it comes due, you're going to be shit for a year, and that's okay.
It is. And again, I'm not advocating some Saints style of reckless spending here where we have 33 and 34-year-olds getting restructured every year and costing 50, 60 million against the
Hi,
cap.
Alvin.
Yeah, you've got no restructured money right now. Taylor Decker and Jack Fox are the only two who've got restructured money on the books right now, and it's not that much.
No.
So you can, I think the max they've said they can clear is 110 million through restructures. I'm not saying restructure 110 million.
No, it's not even close to that. So Jared Goff gets you to 90 on his own if Glasgow and Decker retire. That's all.
Yeah.
That's it.
But I'm saying you don't have to spunk 110 million down the line and build that bill. Like, you could clear 30, you could clear 40, just enough to get a couple of high impact 1 year free agents to come in, plug some of these gaps. 'Cause you're going to need a safety next year while Branch and Kirby heal. So if you can go out and get a guy like that who can come in and help, great. If you can get a guy on the offensive line who can come in and do a 1 year job, maybe while you draft and develop someone, great. You have the ability to do that. It is against the ethos of what Brad likes to do, but at the same point, Brad did show caution to the wind when he was in LA, and at this point in his tenure here, he's not really had the need to throw to the wind because it's been a slow build. So you don't get aggressive in the slow build, but your slow build's over now. Your slow build's done because you are in a situation where you have got to win quick. But you've put yourself in a perfect position to be able to give yourself an opportunity to get out of this. He needs to do that this year. And I don't want to sit here and hear him go again, well, we're happy with the core. We're happy with what we're doing. We're just going to continue what we're doing because it's not working. All these development picks you're picking in the draft are not developing, so therefore our depth is really struggling. Some of your starters at the top are not working either, which is struggling. We're struggling to create quality starters with some of them as well. That 2024 class specifically right now, you're struggling. Like, you've got to explore more different avenues, whether it means trading somebody away, getting more picks, giving yourself ammunition for the trade deadline, just making it more of an opportunity where we said you've got to attack the mid-season and the off-season. You've got to have the Eagles do both. The Eagles trade away good players, give themselves opportunities to get better at the deadline, and then at the deadline they can sell off and they can get assets ready for the draft, and you get that perfect circle there. But you have got to make moves this year. You cannot just do what you do because there are too many holes to fill to be like this year. And you have got to stop with these injured players. Get rid of them. The ones who are serial injuries, get rid of them. They have cost us a lot this year. They have cost us a lot in previous years. It is time to clean house in a way and start getting brutal. You've got to start acting like a Super Bowl contender, not trying to be a best mate's house for all the players. There has to be a balance here.
I think, given other teams mortgage their futures and it means that they have more money to spend than the rest of us, you're in a circumstance where unless you draft perfectly every year and get fortunate with what people are willing to give you in trades, you need assistance from outside as well as being perfect to be competitive. That just doesn't happen very often. If you not tread water, if you end up trying to fix all of your holes every year to stay where you are, you stay where you are. More often than not, the route to success is very, very small. And it's possible, it's just unlikely, and I'm coming around to how you think about things with regards to this because you know I was team don't mortgage the future. But it's becoming necessary. You have a look at how good some of these teams are. The other thing, which is massively important, which Gabs Concom said in our chat, is the most important decision is who offensive coordinator is going to be. Because coaches make a massive difference. If you have a look at who's got the coordinator positions correct recently, the Bears, I know it's head coach, but who cares? You put someone in that clicks with the team, and suddenly they've gone from worst to best. And it's taken one season. So who's calling plays on the offense? Who are you bringing in to do that, if anyone? Is the biggest decision, I think. It's bigger than any draft pick. It's bigger than any investment we make in any free agency player because it's about getting the most out of the people we've already paid. And then the investment comes in on top.
You're right, and Dan said it in his press conference. The first thing he's going to do is the staff, because getting your staff into place is the first essential being of it. So that again, you're right. The team can work around it, and we saw the problems of not having an offensive coordinator in this game. Why? The red zone play calling was atrocious. You need someone who can scheme better when they get into the red zone. With the amount of talent we've got and the amount of weapons we've got, there was the drive where we threw the unprotected screen where we lost 6 yards. Two guys, free to. It's
A
like
tight end screen.
Jared, look at him. You're looking at him. You can see he's got no blockers and a load of Bears guys in front of him. You throw it to him, you lose six. You false start on the next play, and all of a sudden, a promising drive has gone 11 yards backwards on one down because it looks discombobulated. It just doesn't look well organized. It needs a specific play caller in there who is very efficient at what he does there. And the other thing that pisses me off with it, the slowness, the sheer snail's pace that the offense moves. I get Dan has this wanton desire to have the last possession of the game when there's still 20 minutes left in the game and he wants just one drive to end it all, but you put yourself into you put yourself into a precarious situation when you're so wanton with your time, because if your drive doesn't work, all of a sudden you've no time left to get the ball back, and we've seen it cost us this year. And I just feel the offense is so slow because Dan's balancing so much, trying to call plays, trying to figure the game situation, trying to figure out what he wants, that it's slowing the offense down. It's allowing the opposition defense a chance to breathe, to think about what they're doing. And, we used to run one of the best 2-minute drills in the league under Ben Johnson. If you had a 2-minute drill and we needed points to score to win games, you would bet for us every single time we got the ball in that situation. Right now you wouldn't, because it's just not organized at all, and it's showing. Because I think Dan's having to manage the game situation and the play calls at the same time, and in those situations where every second matters, it's costing us time we can't afford to, and we've been complaining about it all year.
Let's go back to this game and just talk about stock up and stock down for people for the last time this season. On the offense, I just want to give a shout out to my guy. He's been low-key the player I stand for most maybe on this show. I called him a bona fide wide receiver too at some point. That's never really come to fruition. But Khalif Raymond's had one of his better games as a Lion. He was unguardable as a receiver, and then was okay with punt returns, but as a receiver, he showed flashes of what he could be if he's a more featured person on another team. Him and Amon Ra lined up on the same side of the field, running routes to confuse people. I mean, he left Jonathan Gardner-Johnson on his ass in one of the most funny plays of the day. I absolutely adored it. So, Khalif, you're out of contract. I wish you the best. I don't know if you're coming back. I suspect not. But I think you've been absolutely fantastic for us.
I don't want that to be the game that gets him re-signed here. And I mean that with all due respect, where I think it's time that we parted ways with him. Tesla's going to be a guy next year. You got your three guys there. You're probably going to draft another guy, etc. You want to draft a better returner for sure and get him in his team there. But I don't want that to be the game, a throwaway at the end of the year, which doesn't mean anything, where he finally comes to life that gets him one more year. I just don't think it's worth it at this point. We're going to have to make some tough decisions on these guys. The all-time punt lead and yard returner, great. Good luck on your next team, but we need to move forward this year. And you probably want a bit more money than we can give you as well. Don't really want to give you that. So
Mm.
no, but in terms of this game, he was very good. I'd say with the offense, I'd just say Jared Goff was fucking phenomenal for the most part of this. He diced up the defense that has the most interceptions in the league. And yes, he got picked once. It wasn't the greatest throw in the world, but I thought the accuracy of his throwing, most of the decision making, apart from a couple of choice ones, i.e., that screen and the pick, I thought he diced them to bits. And it allowed our run game to open up because he was just firing it to all places. JMO was involved, Khalif was involved, Amon Ra was involved. There was some good blocking. It allowed us to get a lot of yards after the catch, meant they lightened the box. That's why we could run the ball better. That's when our offense works at its best, but it works with your quarterback throwing dimes all over the place. And for the most part, I thought he did. So, it was good for me. It's just that red zone execution that we've got to get back. But yeah, I thought it was very good.
Mm. Anyone else you want to give a shout out to having a good day?
um, Ooh, a good day. I mean, you've got to give kudos to your offensive line. They were the ones who allowed this to happen. I thought Ratledge was great again. It's the best mark of a rookie. You don't hear his name mentioned ever, which is the greatest amount of respect you can give a rookie because that means he's not making mistakes. It means he's doing his job well. And the one time we have invested a pick highly in this offensive line, it looks to have worked. Like he's just going to be a mainstay there for so many years now. But I thought, given the injuries they had, given that you've got old Mother Hubbard at right tackle, you had Mahogany come out for a bit, which doesn't help, and I thought they did well in the circumstances. They held up well in the trenches, gave us the opportunity to win. So yeah, I would shout out the players there, but Tate especially. I mean, defensively, who would I shout out from this one? I mean, you got to give it for Maddox. Maddox has done the best job he can in the world. Maddox and Yasin, actually, like the pair of them, like if they were to be on this roster next year as good, solid depth rotational pieces, I would not be sad at all. Have they played their way out of contracts here? Potentially, but I think for what we've needed from them, given the injuries that we've had, they've both been tremendous. I would give them a massive shout out.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Rock Sin played fantastically, and then Maddox with a pick. But otherwise, generally, he's caught out on one play. But other than that, I thought he looked terrific. On defense, the guy that stands out for me is Hutchinson. I think it's the best game I've seen him play for some time. He's really struggled by his standard for recent weeks and months. This kind of look back to him getting back to his best. He was an absolute menace. The sack was just too easy for him, and that was around not the backup left tackle from Canada, but it was against their starting right tackle.
Darnell Wright.
Thank you very much. He made him look a fool, and that's what we need to see out of Aiden. So if it has been that he has needed almost an extra full season to get back from his injury before looking right, I'd say this bodes very well for him for next season. God willing, he goes into it healthy. Maybe the other one is Tyleek. It's maybe his best game as a pro. Like he got some push up front. He got another batted pass. I think that must be 5 or 6 for the year now he's had. He's extremely good at getting into those passing lanes. But he legitimately was pushing people back into Caleb Williams. It's the first time that we've seen him do bits in that way. So, in terms of ending strong, I took that to be a really big positive for him.
Considering that lazy ass chump of a veteran he's got next to him, he's done a lot better. And he's worked his way into this. He's worked his way into the rotation during the year. That's great. The snap counts have gone up. He's going to be required to make a big step next year. Obviously, the amount he's played this year is going to pale in significance to what he's going to play next year because DJ Reader is not coming back. He is going to be that guy going forward now. So it's can he handle the full workload and do this? But from what I've seen of him and how he's developed, he's getting there. And year two might be a trial by fire, but I would expect that he'll do reasonably well in the circumstances. My expectation is he'll just be decent next year. That'll be great. And I think year three, year four is where you see the DTs really come to the fore. But no, you're right. He showed little bits that we need going forward that other DTs this year haven't shown. So yeah, obviously we always like our round one picks to hit hard and be all pros the first year. It's not been the way with him, but all guys develop differently. I think he's developing just fine right now. So yeah, I think I feel in a good place with Tyreek after this season's done.
I have no massive appetite for shouting out any players who didn't have a fantastic game. The only one that I will do is someone that I've had a bit of a gripe with all season just because he's been a bit of a non-factor, and considering he got paid, it's not great. Derek Barnes, again, I thought was a bit of a passenger in this game. There was one rep where he forced the issue and got a pressure. It's not credited by PFF as a pressure, but I remember him being in the face of Caleb. Apart from that, I just... Maybe it's another one where, obviously, he was injured last year and that took away a good portion of that season. But he needs to do something, because I tell you what, if he does it again next year, he's not going to be long for this roster.
Who?
Derek Barnes.
Oh, I'd move on from him this year, quite frankly. I wouldn't be averse to moving him in the draft and doing
Oh, he's
something
someone we've
different
pushed
with him,
significant money into the future for, I think.
potentially. But, if Aaron Glenn wants him in New York, let him have him. I just wonder if his position on this team is redundant. Like, it just doesn't seem like the fit's there for him anymore. They've been playing him on the edge a bit, but I wonder if his position is now redundant and we need to do something different going forward, or, because we need big changes up front. D-line coach has got to go, and hopefully he's the first one who's out the building when this season's started, because it's been terrible. But I would not be averse to moving Barnes on this year. There's been so many games we've needed him, and his counterpart on the opposite side, who does what he does, has been a thorn in our side and just caused us all sorts of problems, and he just has not done that. But I've been very disappointed with him this year. This is going to be the last chance I get a chance to abuse him in a Lions uniform, so I'm going to do it. See you by sick note. Thanks for nothing. Get lost. You can take Reader with you. You're done. I don't care. Get rid of them both. Don't want them back. I think they've both been useless this year. One's not been healthy. The other just hasn't really contributed to this team for the amount we've paid him. I'm going to be glad to see some of these guys go this year. But yeah, I don't want Davenport back, even if he costs $1 against the cap. He is not worth $1 against the cap. Reader is not going to be worth whatever we want to give him. He's already said he wants to play anywhere else anyhow. The Barnes I'd let go after this, as I say, if the opportunity was there. There'd be a few others probably. Amik, see ya. I'm not paying you. Not after this year. I'd rather go to the draft and get a new nickel, to be fair. Yeah, it's going to be a lot of these guys who are not coming back, and we do need to have a shake-up on defense, because it's just year in, year out. We need to have a defensive identity. We talk about the OC being the issue. I don't want to get rid of Kelvin, by the way, but Kelvin needs a mentor, and he needs to develop his identity this year to because he said in that disastrous press conference a few weeks ago, I'm still trying to figure out how to put my guys in the best position to succeed. And you're like, yeah, 3 weeks from the end of the season, and you don't know where your guys' best positions are. That's worrying. You need to get your identity back, and you need to decide what you're going to do. Are you going to be a man team? You're going to be a zone team? What the hell are you going to do with your defensive line? There's got to be changes there. But yeah, there's got to be significant overhaul on the defense this year. But those are three of them who can go right away for me.
All right, do you have any other comment on any of the other players from this game in particular? Because in terms of who we want to keep, who we want to let go, all that sort of stuff, we'll do a free agency show in the weeks to come. It's a long off season. There's a long time to make these decisions before the NFL draft and free agency opens. So you bet your bottom dollar we're going to be all over that, because it is coming up. But on this game specifically, and any other guys, good or bad, you want to give a shout out to?
I give a shout out to Bates for the game winner. He's taken a little bit of tap this season. There's been a few misses in there. Obviously, there was a miss in this one as well, which was not ideal. But you come in, you sink the game winner. I'm still not. I have no concerns about him really moving forward.
Mm.
If these issues persist again next year, then maybe. But at the end of the day, a clutch game-winning kick is a clutch game-winning kick. And I thought he was very good with that. So, I don't want to have any conversations there about him. In terms of other guys, it's all about affording here. Like Ray Lopez looked decent again, apart from when Swift broke his ankles in the backfield, rather embarrassingly. But I think he's had a good enough season for me where I'd want to get him back in the rotation next season if possible, and I don't think he's
Mm.
going to cost the earth to do so. I would say the same with AQM, but I just think he's priced himself out of a move. His sacks make money regardless of all the
I,
corresponding stats that come with it. I know you don't agree with it, but
no, no, no,
like
never mind
he's
that.
had
There isn't a huge amount of difference between what over the cap things Lopez and Malkady Mohammed get in the open market. It's not a big difference.
no, and maybe it's a case of, and this is the problem with us wanting to pay all our young guys. These guys now become unaffordable, and there's no
Mm.
middle ground where you can have these guys. Because I reckon AQM's going to fetch close to 10 million, and I think if someone said next year, I'll give you a 1 year, $12 million deal with like 4 million in incentives and an 8 million base salary or something like that. For third, I mean, what did he end with? 12 sacks? 12 and a half, something like
Yeah,
that.
12, I
He's ended up with
think.
about 12 and a half. And I checked, out of all the edge rushers who've done double digit sacks this year, up until a few weeks ago, him and Trey Hendrickson are the only ones slated to hit free agency. There's not an abundance of sacks knocking around on the free agent market for players who are young enough. So I think he's going to get a deal elsewhere. If they could get a deal to have him back here, I'd be ecstatic, and he'd be like edge three. If he's edge three next year, or edge four maybe, I think you're in an incredibly good place with your edge rotation there. Having someone like him on board. Um, but then outside of that, I'm not sure. Obviously, I'd like to see something done with some of the Legion, of whom Daniel Thomas I would like to see back. I thought he had a great game again here. Made a few notable plays there. I would like to see him back. Um, Obviously, I think Malcolm I would want back. I know Malcolm had a rough game here, but it's his first start all year. I still think he offers plenty to this team in the depth room for linebackers. Obviously, we're probably going to have a new starting linebacker in next year potentially, but I mean, the game did show what we lack without Anzalone. Just saying,
Yeah.
the inability to mark up against tight ends and running backs, and it just killed us towards the end of this game. So I think this game espoused just how much Anzalone means to us, and if we're not serious about replacing him, you've got to try and figure out a deal to get done with him and keep him here a little bit longer. I think his absence showed his value for this one. I think offensively, it feels like most of our players are nailed down at this point. I don't know if there's anyone who's on the periphery that has done well enough that I would bring back. I think they're all under contract. I would love to see Monty here next year, but he deserves better. He deserves so much better than what we've given him this year. And if we can trade him, if we can get something for him, we should absolutely do that. And then the only other thing I think I'd say is I'd clear house on the offensive line. I'd retire all those guys, move on, um, because we just can't afford to keep hanging on to them. Skip. I mean, hopefully with Skip gone, we will put some serious consideration into maybe getting a half decent swing tackle for this team. I love Skip on what he's done, but we need no T3. Now he's not here. He's not that safety blanket anymore. It might force the team to do something about it because, again, we've not had one since Terrell Crosby, and how long ago was that? But yeah, those are my overall thoughts maybe on who should and shouldn't stay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As I say, we'll have another show on exactly that subject and we'll dedicate a show to it later on in this cycle. We are going to have a chat about the rest of Week 18's games in just a second off the audio podcast. So if you're on the audio pod, you may want to switch to YouTube or Twitch for this part of the conversation. But just finally on our off-season content, I said we're best in class, and I mean it wholeheartedly. We're going to get an early start on things this season, of course, because of the early finish 2 hours. But it does mean that we're going to get to scouting pretty bloody quickly for this NFL draft. And of course, Ant and Ryan have been all over college football when they've been doing their college football podcast for the last 4 seasons. So you've seen the entirety of the class from start to finish, unless there are super seniors out there. Like, if anyone knows what they're talking about, it's going to be Ant and Ryan. And of course, with us all piling in on this, I think it's going to be a really exciting year for us when it comes to draft time. We're going to be all over left tackle and centre drafting. You better believe that those are going to be really big shows for us. And they're going to come sooner than you think. So I would urge you all to keep your ear to the ground in terms of the shows that we've got coming up. And, we can cover more position groups because we've got more weeks to fill. So, we're going to have something that you guys really, really should listen to. Anyway, socials. You can find us on Royal Lions UK, YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. And the group for worldwide fans of Detroit Lions Fans UK, One Pride Worldwide. Website, rotluk.com. Subscribe, rate us 5 stars on your podcast provider. Me and Ant need to have a chat about our next shows. But if we go off what we've done last year, then we're going to drop to 1 show a week on the main podcast from here on out, because there are no other games. And we'll be talking award show nominations. So we do an annual award show to honour the best in class of Lions of each year, and I don't see any reason to divert away from that. It has been a down year, but that just means we need to find the silver lining in things sometimes. So I think, apart from looking back at Wildcard Weekend, we'll be having a look at nominating Rookie of the Year, Coach of the Year, Offensive, Defensive Player of the Year, all that good stuff. So I hope you'll join us for that show next week. And like I say, if you want extra conversation, we'll be on YouTube and Twitch. But for now, thank you to Ant, to everyone for listening. It's another winning record. And we swept the Bears. Fuck the Bears. Let's go Lions, One Pride.
One Pride.
Recording stopped.
And let's talk about the rest of the weekend's games then, shall we? And for a week that didn't have a huge amount on the line for teams, I actually found it and quite entertaining, I have to say. And it started out with a result I predicted, which was that the Panthers lost to the Buccaneers, but the Falcons did them a favour, and the Panthers are the winners of the NFC South. Buccaneers run out 16-14 winners. It wasn't a good game. The Panthers did the Panthers thing of kind of coming alive in the fourth quarter again, but it wasn't quite enough. Which meant that they were both on the sofa watching the Falcons game the next day to see who got through.
Oh, I love this one more than anything. I predicted the Panthers to win the NFC South, and so they did. And yes, while it may be a dumpster fire of a division and it's more luck than anything, I do feel really happy for them. They've still got a ways to go. Don't get me wrong, but from where they were and what they were doing to now be a conference champ, to be a division champion, hell, they shut out the Rams once this year already. It kind of feels like the Rams are going to get the vengeance on them, but it just shows how far they're coming. And the development of Bryce Young continues. He's still making a few boneheaded throws here and there, but he's also leading a lot of clutch drives for them. If they get stronger, they could well dominate that division for a long time to come, because it looks like the Bucs star is falling and Falcons and Saints just suck. But it was a good game overall, very scrappy, very nitty-gritty as you would expect with something like this. It's the NFC South in a nutshell. It's ugly, but I'm very happy for the Panthers overall at the end of this. They had to wait, but I can't wait to see what they do in the playoffs. Hopefully they put on a good show.
Next up was the next and final game on Saturday, on Monday Night Football, which was the Seattle victory in Santa Clara, against the 49ers 13-3 in one of the most dominant defensive performances of what feels like years. San Francisco were the hottest offense in the NFL. I mean, what they did in the previous week to Chicago, which is not a bad defense by any means, and what Purdy was able to do to them. And then you have a look at what Seattle did to the 49ers to lock up the 1 seed and the most competitive division, I think, in recent memory. They deserve all the plaudits.
And another conference I got right. had the Seahawks to win the NFC West and how good that felt. But you're right. They've just gone completely under the radar. As I say, people just still think of them as the Pete Carroll and Russ Wilson team, and since then they've just kind of sucked a little bit. But they've got a good head coach. They've drafted incredibly well. Again, they keep drafting players that I really like the Seahawks do. I find it annoying, but they've built that offensive line from scratch with Cross and all these guys who they've just paid. They built through the trenches. They've built a very tough, resilient team. You have to when you're playing the 49ers and the Rams every year. And, they've bona fide, but you've got one of the best receivers in the league now. Your secondary is really good. Your defense on a whole has just been fantastic. But this is the whole fire meets fire. When you've got to face McVay and Shanahan every year, um, you've got to put on your A game, your elite game every single week, and they have done. And I fancy them to really make some noise this year. I don't think they're going to be the NFC entrant to the Super Bowl. I think there is a ceiling for them at this moment in time, but I would expect them to make the championship game as a bare minimum. But yeah, they're good. The 49ers just feel their window's closing rapidly. They need to win it this year. You kind of feel if they get through one more year and they don't win it this year, then the drop off is really going to start to occur. Then it kind of feels like they're just about hanging on, and it's nearly done. This was not ideal for them to end the year.
Interesting, the route in the playoffs for the Seahawks, because obviously they get a first round bye, which college football has shown is not necessarily a good thing, which you talked about last year, to your credit. I think that their most likely opponent is probably the Rams as the 6th seed against the Eagles away, because I do think that the Rams are probably going to win that game, and I have my doubts that the Packers will beat the Bears. But it's either the Rams, I think, or the Packers against the Bears, because God knows the Packers could turn up against the Bears and do one. I have my doubts, but the vibes are so bad in Green Bay right now. I struggle to see that. But if it is Rams at Seahawks in the divisional round, that's must-watch telly. That's going to be super exciting.
Oh yeah.
Next one is Saints-Falcons, the game that got the Panthers into the promised land and a division title for the first time in 10 seasons since 2015. It was touch and go too, because it looked like it was done and dusted. Saints get a late touchdown but don't manage to get the onside kick. There weren't many touchdowns in this game overall, but the Falcons moved the ball between the 20s and did enough with the field goals.
Oh, it's just ugly NFC South football. It's ugly. It's not particularly nice. It's just a load of bad teams fighting it out with one another, and this must really have stung for them. Like, there's nothing worse than playing a game which means nothing to you but means everything to your opponents. Doesn't matter who wins. You're crowning somebody who you're not gonna like in this conference. This must have been the worst game possible. I watched some of it. It was horrible. It was ugly. Again, I'm just glad the NFC South is done this year now for the most part, because it's been a horrible division to watch, and there's been not much joy in it. Falcons must be kicking themselves, right? Like, we think we're kicking ourselves for missing out on the playoffs. Think of all the horrendous results they've had against all the fantastic results they've had. They must be absolutely fuming that they're not in the playoffs this year. I couldn't imagine it.
They lost to the Jets.
They got shut out by the Panthers. Was it 31-0 or something like that? And then they beat the Rams. And they've beaten several other high caliber teams as well.
They lost by a point to the Patriots. They lost by 6 points to the Colts. They lost to the Jets by 3 before winning 4 straight to end the season. It's just a mad year.
And having to play Kirk in there as well, who was done and dusted. It's just, dear.
Yeah. Next game is the hilarious Browns win against the Bengals. Browns win 20-18. Myles Garrett has had to wait a long time for that sack record, but with 4 minutes left in the game and left in his season, he finally got it after completely being stymied last week as Pittsburgh set out to just prevent him getting it by any means necessary. And by any means, I mean losing the game. He finally got there, and never mind that. The Browns showed enough to win this game, and Shadur, 11 of 22 for 111, no touchdowns, no picks, but he facilitated an offense that did enough to win.
Yeah, again, this is weird game. Like Burrow has 3 touchdowns and they've scored 18 points. There's no points afters, anything like that. It just messes with my mind. Like teams can't have 3 touchdowns with 18 points. But yeah, again, just kind of playing for pride at this one, really, aren't you? I think the Browns are still picking ahead of the Bengals, but great for Miles to get the record. You just wish they'd let him go and win a ring. So I know it's Miles's fault for taking the money there, but now the record's broken. What else can he do there? He's not going to break an all-time sack record there. He's still like 80 away from it. No, despite the stupid record he's been on there, it's like, don't you want to win? Really? I know the head coach is gone now, but you've kept the, you're going through another rebuild, going through another head coach. You ain't getting any younger. He should force a trade out this year, and they should let him go and do something productive with his time. Because all this empty stat padding doesn't mean a lot. The Bengals, they should fire their head coach as well. It's about time they, had a rejig. I mean, you look at the top of this division, the the Steelers and the Ravens. It's not exactly like the bar's high at the minute, and you two are kind of just fighting around here, like no direction, no nothing. Both teams are just you don't see anything for either of them in the near future, really, do you? And
No.
it kind of just what felt like this game was. It just two teams meandering around, not really playing for much, having a good thing, but ultimately it just doesn't matter at all.
Right, I am just going to pop off for 2 minutes if you don't mind. Sorry, I've had a few too many drinks. So I'll be 2 minutes and then I'll be back. We're not recording, so.
Set me a game up to talk about.
Right, next up is another hilarious one. Vikings over the Packers 16-3. The Packers got their 3 with the last moment of the game. I really thought they were going to run the clock out and just take a 0. But LaFleur, the vain man that he is, thought that kicking a field goal with 1 second left would save something. Mental fucking idiot who's going to get himself fired if he's not careful. Anyway, the Vikings finish with a winning record. The whole NFC North does. And it's all yours.
Yep, for the second time since 1935, an entire division finishes with a winning record, and we just end up at the bottom of it. And this one really annoyed me because you're looking at the Vikings and the Packers, and you're like, how have we lost 3 games to these two? It was just again really ugly. I know Brosman's in playing for the Vikings, and it was Clayton Tune for the Packers. Obviously, the Packers just getting ready for the playoffs at this point. One for them, they broke their single game punt yard records. Daniel Whelan had 431 punt yards. He punted 8 times. He averaged 54 yards per punt. I think their previous record was about 416. It was just basically poor Daniel Whelan kicking a ball all game. And the Packers offense not doing much. Tune went 6 of 11 for 34 yards and got sacked 4 times. They ran the ball 35 times. They attempted 11 passes. Very rarely do you get a 3-1 run to pass offense in any facet of the game today. Obviously, they didn't want Clayton Tune to pass the ball, so they just tried to run it, and yeah, it just devolved into a very ugly game. The Vikings will probably hate the fact they're not going to the playoffs as well with a 9-win record. Like, just the Packers are going to get the Packers and the Bears both going to get bounced early doors. So yeah, it was just frustrating watching this game. We could have got in the playoffs this year, but shoulda, woulda, coulda. We didn't. We're going to have to re-go next year. But I don't have any doubt that we can go and reclaim the NFC North next year. The talent level above us is not high, and we are going to have a better schedule next year. So yeah, that one was just really tough. I'll go through some comments while waiting for Matt to come back. Brent goes, sack record is a joke. Check the tape before it was a stat. Buda Baker was the best. I mean, Miles Garrett's got an absolute ton of sacks. I think it means something. In a season, anyhow, 22 and a half sacks, or 23 is out now, is stupidly good. He's just doing it on a ridiculously bad team, which you would hope he didn't. But yeah, it was not pretty at all. I'll move on to one of the other games while I'm waiting for Matt to come back because I don't think he's back. Oh no, he's just back.
Hello.
I made
All
it.
right.
Yeah, I was just saying, watching the Vikings and the Packers made me upset because it made me realize just how the hell did we lose 3 games to these this year. I am not worried about taking the NFC North back this year. We have not been left behind. The standard of football above us is not that great.
I believe a bit of the smoke that LaFleur's in trouble. I think if he doesn't beat the Bears, I think he could be gone. And if he is, and they change track from where they are, because I believe, but I know he's a crybaby. I do think he's a good offensive mind. I do think he's built something with Love, even though I don't believe in Love. I believe they're a better team for LaFleur. If they get rid of him, I still think the Packers are the biggest threat to us in the division, even though the Bears have just won the bloody thing. If they reset, that's a beautiful thing. I think they'd be fools. Like, I hate him and his stupid face, but they're a better team for it. They're frustrated at where they are, but they should look elsewhere in their organisation for their eyes, because Gutekunst somehow has a reputation for being like a top 5 GM. I think he's shit. I think he's done terribly. So
he's just had millions of draft picks and he's hit on a few of them, but he just picks like 10 players every year and then hopes he hits on like 1 or 2 of them. But no, Hafley will be gone. That'll be the big one. Hopefully Grant Hafley gets his job in this cycle and we don't have to worry about that defense again. But I'm with you, I think he's on a hot seat. And I mean, he would. When was the last time the Packers won a playoff game? What, are they 3-4 years removed from a playoff win now?
It's been some
a while, time.
Yeah.
And they have technically had the team that's not rebuilt. You know, they've not been through a rebuild per se, so.
All right. Next up is the blowout victory of the Jags and winning the AFC South over the Titans 41-7, including a 24-point second quarter. Lawrence was magnificent in this game, 22 of 32, 55, 3 touchdowns, no picks. Nick Mullins actually came in at the end. I didn't see what happened to Cam Ward. Do you know what happened to Cam Ward?
No, I didn't see what happened, but his season was prematurely ended. It was not ideal.
It was not ideal.
Who had the Jags winning 13 games this year?
Yeah, it's insane.
Not me.
No.
I don't think anyone pick Houston. No, we had a Houston sweep in that conference.
Yep. Yeah, there we go.
Trevor Lawrence looks like the Trevor Lawrence we expected all those years ago. Trevor Lawrence is playing some of the best quarterback play in the league right now. Maybe he's just taken a little bit of time on a really rough team to finally find himself, but I don't know. I wouldn't want to play that Jags team in the playoffs. I think they're very feisty. And they'll have a home game now.
All right, next up is the Texans-Colts game. 38-30 victory for the Texans, but only after they ran in a big man touchdown on a scramble drill to end the game. It was 32-30 after Riley Leonard engineered a fascinating game. He was the best quarterback on the field, even when CJ Stroud was on it. Leonard went 21-34 for 272 touchdowns and a pick. Jonathan Taylor did fuck all, 14 carries of 26 yards as Houston effectively shut him down, which meant it was all on Leonard's shoulders. And this game went back and forward. Late on, the Colts were winning this game, and it was a really important game for the Texans to win, because to win locked them into the 5 seed, and it means they face the worst division winner, as opposed to possibly going 6th seed and having to face someone a bit more prominent. So, easier route for the Texans here after a win. But you know what? Leonard put his best foot forward.
No, I'm not going to get in the way of your Colts hate fest. You go right ahead. You predicted this one a long time ago.
I do find the Sauce Gardner stuff just funny. After the trade, he had the worst record in the NFL of any player.
No, yeah. I think he's the only player in history to lose 7 games twice in a season with 2 different teams.
Yeah.
I think that's his record. He was 2-7 with the Jets and he's 2-7 with the Colts.
No.
Or is it 1-7 with
he
each?
went 2-15. And in games he actually...
No, that's what I mean. all told,
Yes, so
with two separate teams,
he went
he
1-7 and then 1-8.
Oh, that was it. Yeah.
But he didn't play in one of the wins, so he actually went 1-15 for the season as a player, which is just hilarious. I have always maintained this, that I do not hate the Colts. I just didn't believe in them as a team because I felt like they were built on shaky foundations and the quarterback just wasn't as good as people thought he was because he just caught fire at the right time. I still think I really like how they've built the team. Offensive line needs a bit of work because Jonathan Taylor's incredible and you can't be doing 14 carries for 26 yards. I love the wide receiver core that they've built. The receiver core, I should say, not wide receiver core, because Warren and Downs and Pierce look like that's a really good foundation for the future. I tell you what, the Alec Pierce ejection is ridiculous. I don't know if you saw it.
Yeah, it is the worst thing I've ever seen in my life. That ref should be fired for throwing that flag.
It's not the NBA. Like, I know that you're not meant to touch the ref, but unless you're, like, pushing them, like it was clear it was an inadvertent touch, and he should have been more careful, and by the letter of law, it is an ejection. But have some common fucking sense.
Yeah. You're just making yourself look like an idiot there, like you're some kind of protected species. You know, oh, you can't touch me. I'm the man. I'm the man round here. You can't do this. It's like, and he like grazed him. He didn't even touch him. It's not like he cupped his hand round his balls or something like that, and just did something that was very personal. He just grazed him. I would be fuming if that would be something the league would have done to JMO. In fact, no, they'd probably suspend him for 6 games for doing something like that. But I just thought as a casual watcher, it takes away from the game as well. Why take away one of the Colts' most prominent receivers in such a tight game when it's really close and then you deprive them of him? Like, it's ridiculous. The NFL need to go away and have a serious look at their reffing process this year. It's not just us. It feels like it's been at an all-time low this year, the quality of refereeing and everything about it. It's got to change.
I do think that is something that we do say every year, but I do agree with you. It has felt terrible this year.
It genuinely feels it this year. I know we complain a lot, but it just genuinely feel across the board, not just us, like it has been an absolutely atrocious year for refs. Like last night was terrible. Watching Sunday night football. Sorry, they were awful. They're just awful everywhere.
I am absolutely here for the big man touchdown. We all, I think, to a man, loved Tommy Togiai in the draft process a few years ago. Him finishing that game off put a massive smile on my face.
Yeah, always one for the big man TDs.
All right, next game. Jets-Bills. Bills win 35-8 in another Mitchell Trubisky win. 22 of 29 for 259, 4 touchdowns, no picks. He went up against Brady Cook, who was 11 of 22 for 60 and a touchdown. Yes, the Jets passed for 60 yards. A shameful game for a shameful season. No interceptions for the Jets on the year. And I did mention, about Aaron Glenn and how much man coverage, and it does impact your interception numbers. But not getting one is a damning indictment. And Buffalo, Glenn prided himself on run defense here as well as man coverage. The Buffalo team ran for 211 yards. Ray Davis got 21 for 151. I'm not going to say it's enough to get him fired because I think he's coming back. But as close as you can get to being one and done, Glenn is almost there.
I think he's not given himself a year. He's lost a year 3. I think we're agreeing on that. I think he is not getting the benefit of the doubt next year. Like sometimes you'll give a guy 3 years if he struggles in his first 2 years. I think he's not going to get a year 3 if he struggles next year. Like his leverage is completely and utterly gone. It's just the way this team quit on him. The team, honestly, to God, feels like it quit on him. And how does a DB of his caliber coach a team that can't get a single interception in a year? Not even by chance, by mistake. It's like the law of averages is eventually a QB is going to throw a bad pass at you in a season. He's going to throw one right to one of your guys and you're going to catch it. Like it's the law of averages and he's even defeated the law of averages here. It, the way they're playing is ugly. And I don't know whether not investing in a quarterback is going to haunt them. I think they've got to do it this year. The identity of your team starts with your quarterback, right? He's the one who sets the tone and the one you build around and that. And just going for Justin Fields was never going to be the option there. And there's just they don't have the guy on the center for the future. They're probably going to have to get aggressive if they want to go and get a good one this year because the QB class is going to be one of the worst of all time. Um, yeah, he's just lost any form of leverage whatsoever he has on a year three here.
Hmm.
I think he should get one. Like, he should get a year two because first year's the first year's, but it's very worrying how it ended. I don't think he's going to be long for New York if I'm being totally honest.
Next game is Chargers at Broncos. Chargers mailed this one in, starting very few starters. Broncos win it 19-3. Trey Lance was 20 of 44 for 136, no touchdowns and a pick. Bo Nix wasn't much better though, 14 of 23 for 141, no touchdowns or picks. Trey Lance was the leading rusher in the game, and Bo Nix was the leading rusher for Denver. It was just one of those games. There were no offensive touchdowns at all in this game. This is not football. And
it's a week 18 game, right? That doesn't really mean much. Both teams are prepping for the playoffs, and they've got bigger fish to fry than this game. And like I said, when you saw the teams come out, you're like, yeah, this is just gonna go the way it did. I mean, obviously for the Broncos, good year for them, 14 win season, number one seed for them. That's impressive. They could do some damage this year. Maybe this has sort of been a bit of a mini buy for them. They were able to rest guys, take some guys out. But yeah, you're right. This is an example of what having a long season. This is a negative side effect of a long season because, these games in the last couple of weeks, a lot of them just become meaningless and pointless and boring to watch, and we don't want that. We want exciting finishes to the year, and we were never going to get anything like that from this.
next up, another hilarious Week 18 game as the Raiders get their third win of the season despite being locked into the number one overall pick, beating the Kansas City Chiefs. Another game that did not have an offensive touchdown. The 2-point win is because of a fourth quarter safety, which the Raiders got on the Chiefs. It was Shane Bukeley being sacked by Tyree Wilson in the end zone. Chris Oludokun, Shane Bukeley, Aiden O'Connell, Kenny Pickett. This is the stuff of nightmares for any team. The only redeeming feature of the whole thing was Ashton Jonte was okay. That's it. This is a horrifying way to end the season. I will say the Raiders did get 8 sacks in the game, which must be close to some sort of record.
Yeah. Obviously the Chiefs phoned this in. Chiefs have had their budget. Chiefs are not going to care. They got like 3 Super Bowls in the last 3 years. This is a perfectly acceptable season for them. They can have one of these, but obviously they phoned it in. They had Oludokun and Bukeley both out there. Raiders are just a bad organization, man. You just don't know where they've got some bits there. This is funny because everyone's on the Tyree Wilson thing now. Like, he's had a good game in a week 18, which means nothing. He is not a superstar. He is not the all-coming. You've not suddenly found him. He's just had a good game to end the year. He'll revert to type next year, but yeah, just again, I hate these games, the throwaway games at the end. They should be able to sort of shake hands and say, yeah, let's not bother. Let's just tie this or whatever and be done with it. But hey ho, fine for the Raiders, but they've got a big choice to make this offseason now, and of course, the head coach is the first thing. They fired Pete Carroll after this, which was absolutely the right decision. But there's my initial thought is they should trade that pick. There are just way too many problems with that team that a quarterback is not going to solve right now. I would be shocked if they pick number one in the upcoming draft. That is what I'm going to be with that.
Really?
Yeah. I know you need a quarterback, but I don't think Fernando Mendoza's going to fix your team. I think you've got way too many problems to deal with here. And, someone will pay for Mendoza who's going to be in a better situation too. But I just, they look so far away. I don't think there's many redeeming features on the team. Obviously, you've got uh, Max Crosby, you've got
Who's moving
Brock
on
Bowers.
potentially.
Yeah, they're probably going to get rid of him. You got Brock Bowers. You've got a few bits, but your offensive line's terrible outside of Colin Miller. You need better receivers. You need better running backs. I mean, Jonty's had an all right year, but he's not been what they thought they were. But picking a running back last year, it was just it set the team back.
It did.
That should have been a franchise player at a defensive position there at that time, or on your offensive line, and you picked a damn running back. If I'm them, I'm 100% trading that and getting more capital. Because don't forget, new head coach coming in, he's going to have leeway. He's going to have years on his side. He'll want as many drafted players that he's drafted in as possible. Um, yeah. Again, I think the odds of them picking there at this point are very low.
I think that you're talking sensibly as a person who is the head of football operations and not the chief operating officer. And unfortunately, football does come down to money and it does come down to selling tickets. And that stadium that they've built, and they need to put bums on the seats. And I think that that is what's going to make them pick number one overall. I think that they're going to say, if we pick a quarterback number one, that is going to keep people coming back to the stadium. Which is very short-sighted because you know what? Winning is what makes people come back to a stadium, and no team knows that better than us with the highest ticket prices in the NFL. So it's a short-sighted thing, but you hear it all the time that you need to have that big draw. I'm not sure whether Mendoza is a sort of personality that is necessarily going to be that larger-than-life guy. I know he wears a smile on his face all the time and is a very jovial figure, but I'm not sure he's that big personality that Vegas necessarily look for, but I do think they will be picking him.
Give it a year in Vegas, that smile will be wiped off his face. He'll be miserable and sim when it's all said and done. But hopefully it won't be as bad as the last time they picked number one overall. You'd struggle to be a worse quarterback than that, to be fair. You've got a long way to go.
Yeah.
Um,
Next up, Cardinals at the Rams. Rams win 37-20. Jonathan Gannon has just gone, even though it was his birthday yesterday and they wished him a happy birthday, which I thought was quaint. Jacoby Brissett had another good game. 22 of 31, 243, 2 touchdowns, 1 pick. But when Stafford goes 25 of 40, 259, 4 touchdowns, no picks, good luck. Good luck.
Yeah. I mean, fair enough. They were feisty to end the season, but the Cardinals are another one of those. They're in hell right now. They're in purgatory. It's like, what do you do with them? They're gonna need a quarterback next year. I assume Kyler Murray's going to move on. But it's a shame because they were showing signs of being such a good team, and the NFC West is better when the Cardinals are good. Like I like the Cardinals. They've got a lot of good playmakers there, but again, they've got to sort out their trenches. There's just not enough on the defensive line. They've got nothing at quarterback, and then the secondary got absolutely eviscerated. A big build is coming there, and you're in a conference where you've got to build properly. They're going to have to build slow because you can't. It's not just something you can fix in one year and suddenly be fighting with the Rams and the Seahawks and the 49ers. You've got to slow build this thing. But the Cards are the ones I expect to be very aggressive in trying to go get the quarterback if the opportunity is there. They've done it before. I think they'll do it again. But there'll be big players for it. But yeah, that whoever gets that job has got a very tough assignment on their hands. There's so much that needs to be done with that team. And again, you're in a rotten conference to be in and be a bad side.
Next up is the Dolphins at the Patriots. Patriots ran out 38-10 victors in an absolute massacre. Drake May didn't need to do much. 14 of 18 for 191, a touchdown, no picks. Josh Dobbs came in late. He was up against Quinn Ewers, who was fine. 16 of 23, 137, a touchdown and a pick. But this was the Ramondre Stevenson show. 7 carries for 131 yards and 2 touchdowns. That's just under 19 yards a carry for Ramondre Stevenson. Dravion Henderson got in on the act as well. 13 carries for 53 and 2 touchdowns. This was destruction on the ground then.
Yeah. Just two completely different quality teams here. Obviously, the Dolphins at a 7-win season go, you know what, it's not been the worst year in the world. There are bits to build around, but they're going to have issues about the quarterback this year. You know, they're going to need a new one. So, well, potentially with Tua and that, they're at a big crossroads, and who knows what they're going to do with the head coach. You know, personally, I want them to fire Mike McDaniel so we can hire him. So go on, Miami. You want to fire him because we want him. But yeah, Patriots are going to be dangerous, and God help us all if they win another Super Bowl again. Because I'm not ready for the dynasty to be back at this point. But I mean, you look at them and you think there's not going to be many teams that are going to be able to stand up against them. Personally, I don't know if they can make it, but I'm hoping for the New England Buffalo championship game. I don't know if that's a possibility given their schedules, but I would figure there is a way for it. What a Buffalo 5 seed or 4 seed? The 6 seed. So they'll play the 2nd seed. If the first seed will play the lowest seed left, so they'll need who's 7 seed?
7 is the Chargers. It's Buffalo at Jacksonville.
Yeah,
So
but when the first seed comes into play, they'll need the Chargers to still be in, so they're not the lowest seed that'll play the Patriots, right? Oh no, Patriots are 2nd seed, aren't they?
Patriots are 2nd seed. So Patriots play the Chargers.
Yeah.
And what do you want to happen? The Bills-Patriots?
The Bills-Patriots in the championship game. Is it a possibility?
Yeah. So
it is.
It is. So if either way with the Chargers-Patriots game, so the Patriots win, because they have to.
The Bills win.
Work, and the Bills win. The Bills have to play the Broncos.
Yeah.
So the Patriots will play either the Steelers or Texans.
Oh, so it could happen.
So it's very likely, actually, as long as the Patriots win, and as long as Buffalo win, then it could happen. It's inevitable, in fact, I think.
There we go.
Yeah, there we go. Anyway, fun. 2 more games to get to. We had Commanders at Eagles, the Tanner McKee game, and 24-17 victory for the Commanders, who get to 5-12. Eagles fall to 11-6 and had a chance to clinch a 2 seed but fail. And I don't see a lot of reason for it in the box score. They just struggled to score. McKee was fine. Low percentage completion rate, I guess. 21 of 40 for 241, a touchdown and a pick. Tank Bigsby had 16 for 75 and a touchdown. But Washington, Josh Johnson only passed for 131 yards, but he had 45 on the ground on 9 carries with a touchdown late to go ahead. Chris Rodriguez was 16 for 65 and a touchdown. Not a lot to write home about otherwise. This was a pretty mediocre game by 2, frankly, mediocre teams.
Well, one season was over and one was resting players for the playoffs, and that's kind of what you get. You just get these really ugly, low-scoring games, and if you're the Eagles, you don't take too much. You don't care, really. You know, you're in the playoffs. You've saved your players. You know, Saquon's had a week off. Jalen's had a week off. They're all going to be fit, healthy, and ready to go, and, you know, this is going to be a case of it doesn't matter how you get to the dance. I know a lot of people don't fancy the Eagles, but you've just got to get a ticket. They turn it on and do what we know they can do and play the way they can just for the next 3 weeks, then they go into a Super Bowl, and that's how easy this thing is. So, you know, they'll be glad of the chance to have had a week's rest with this. And Commanders fans, I don't think it'll mean much to them. Like, it's another win. It's bumped them down the draft boards a little bit, but yeah, just one of those. There was not really much to play for here, and it kind of showed.
Final game of the regular season. was the winner-take-all match between the Ravens and the Steelers. The Steelers win 26-24 after a very late touchdown by Pittsburgh, and the Ravens get into scoring position with a circus catch from Isaiah Likely, and yet Tyler Loop shanks his kick to win the game. And there was a fantastic stat by Optastats on Twitter which says there have been over 60,000 field goal attempts in NFL history. Tyler Loop's miss is the only attempt which has come as time expires in the fourth quarter in the final week of the season, with both teams' playoff hopes resting solely on the result of his kick. And given the fact that it is a tradition now for the final week of the year to be a divisional matchup, the fact that there hasn't been a game-winning field goal missed between two high-flying division teams who are playing off against each other and only one of them gets in is frankly astonishing. I feel awfully for the rookie because he'd had a low-key very good season, Tyler Loop. But when it's all said and done, when you're that injured and Lamar misses as much as he did and there's other things going on there, when you play this badly and the Steelers dominated this game, you don't deserve to win it, but you had the chance to nick it and they failed. And now suddenly the Ravens go into this off-season in all worlds of trouble.
I thought this was a fantastic game. I stayed up and watched it, and I loved every single bit of it. Tyler Loop should be as angry as his teammates as they might be at him. They were double digit. They're 10-0 up against the Steelers. The Steelers are not designed to come back from 10 points down. They don't play that style of football. You've quietened the fans. You've got some stops on defense. See it out. And you let the Steelers hang. You let them fight their way back into it. When was the last time we saw the Steelers really do something like that? It's not something they do very often. And it's maybe made me feel a little better about our loss to them, because I think there's a bit more to this team than does meet the eye this year. Like, they are very resilient. They're poor still, in my opinion, but they're very resilient with just enough talent to be able to force their way through in some of these situations. And I thought the Steelers were magnificent in getting back into this one. And even when Baltimore kept hitting them, 2 minutes left, I think Baltimore took the lead. And yeah, okay, that's it, done and dusted. And then they just managed to pull a rabbit out their ass and get the win. And like you say, with all it just had everything. Lead changes, big reffing decisions, big misses, an epic finale. And it was fitting. That's what they want Week 18 to be. It can't always be like that, but just on the odd occasion, you will get something special like this. And you're right. Like, the Steelers, this has far-reaching consequences for the AFC North. The Steelers need to win a playoff game. They haven't since 2016. So the job is not done. Just get into the playoffs this year. If they get bounced in the first round, this means nothing. They've thrown away everything they've got to get here, and then you still think Tomlin's going to be on some form of our hot seat. I think for Baltimore, that kick has sealed John Harbaugh's fate. He's done. And I think he should be done. Because he is what I don't want the Detroit Lions to turn into. I don't want us to turn into a perennial contender that perennially fucks up and misses out and can't take that next step forward. What was that stat you put up earlier about playoff wins between Lamar Jackson and Joe Flacco in the years he's been in the league?
Yeah, that wasn't me, but yeah, Lamar has 2 and Flacco has 9 and a ring.
Yeah. Yeah, in the time that Lamar Jackson's been in this league, Joe Flacco has 9 playoff wins and a Super Bowl ring. Lamar Jackson, I think, has 3 playoff wins in his 7 years. But every year it feels like we're talking about the Ravens having a league-leading defense or a league-leading offense. They've had a very good defense the last few years. They've had very good offenses. They have had a circus load of great talent go through that team, and they got one of the best quarterbacks in the league fronting their helm. And in a year where Patrick Mahomes is not going to the playoffs, where Josh Allen was struggling to make the playoffs, in a division which is quite frankly just absolutely atrocious. 2 of these teams are not even relevant right now, and you can't even make the playoffs anymore. It's a fireable offense. Even if he stays there, people will come back next year and say the Ravens are one of the favorites to go up to the AFC Championship game, but you're like, okay, is that what I want my life to be? I can be a contender, but I'm never going to be a contender. But my coach is just good enough to give us the impression we are a contender. He's like Tomlin. He's living off a Super Bowl ring, which is just so far back in the past that people forget about it now. They've just severely underachieved. And if I'm the Ravens, I look at this and yes, a lot of people might pick up John Harbaugh tomorrow if he comes on the coaching PG, but that doesn't mean you should keep him. He's not doing the job for your team, and I think he should be gone. And I think that kick will seal it.
All right, that's your lot. Anything you want to shout about before we conclude this final review episode of the year?
Only that Travis Head's fucking our bowling again, and I'm fed up of it at this point. I want the Ashes. I want the Ashes to end.
I mean, it ended weeks ago, but never mind.
Well, it did, yes, but I don't like getting rodded by the Australians, and they've done that for us pretty much this entire thing. So yeah, our sporting misery is reaching its climax. The Lions are done. The England cricket team's soon about to be done. I've got to rely on Chesterfield this year now.
Good luck with
You
that.
you can't even fall back on Liverpool because they don't look great either.
We look better than we did a month ago.
Yes.
But anyway, with that terrible disappointment, it's time to end the show. Thank you to everyone for listening throughout this season. You've been the MVPs, and we really appreciate you listening to us ramble on all of these weeks. As I say, we're going to have some great content coming up, so keep your ears to the ground. But for Ant, from me, have a great rest of your week. We'll see you for the College Football Podcast talking about the playoffs very soon. For now, we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.
Fuck the Bears.